I learned about slavery in elementary school. Very brief, wasn't very detailed, and we quickly got to the point that Abraham Lincoln, there's Civil War, he freed the slaves, and that was the end of that, and that's why he's on Mount Rushmore, and he's on the penny, and we commemorate this amazing president. But it becomes about Lincoln and not about the slaves.
When it comes to stories of enslaved people, maybe it's because people don't think that people could write and were literate then, but the oral tradition that has been passed down through slavery is one that, although highly neglected, is one of the most rich sources that we have in deciphering through enslaved people.
So slavery is one of those things in American history that we're not comfortable discussing. And I think that the influence of slavery is still very much with us. If you think about American history and how we see and understand it, Americans are unwilling to talk about slavery because it makes them uncomfortable. America is a society where everyone is an immigrant, right? This story of the grateful immigrant, a group of people who leave their country to come to the promised land to achieve something better, a better life. And yet Africans are not immigrants in that same way. So they're brought here unwillingly, forced here. Their labor is taken from them, their children, their identities, in the sense that they, as Africans, their names are taken from them. And this sort of denial, right, of an individual, of an immigrant, and then forced to be slaves, to be someone else's property, makes us really uncomfortable. We're unable to accept the idea that for some people, there is no, and there was no American dream.
I think one of the greatest tragedies in terms of the American, African American, in terms of slavery, is the loss of identity, the true sense of self-worth. That American slavery was very effective at conditioning the minds of many Africans in this land to feel subpar, and that, I think, sense of substandard human existence has lasted, unfortunately.
I think it's important to remember slavery because our nation could not have attained the success and the wealth that it had to be secure enough to secede and fight against the British. The United States would not exist without slavery, so how can we not talk about it?
Well, it has to be because this is your history. This is who you are. So all of us should know more about because if we don't tell our children, in the next few generations, they will completely forget about it, because slavery, all of this is a part of who they are. This is your history, and everyone should know their family's history.
I understand. Who wants to be reminded of such a tragic and horrible past? Who wants to be reminded about how our ancestors were treated? And to some extent, there is a very conscious effort on the part of many African Americans, especially young people, to simply say, that wasn't me, to distance themselves for that because it makes them feel better about who they are. What I would simply say to them is that you have a great history, and you can look at the past through different lenses. The different lenses, how proud you should be about the fact that so many of your ancestors overcame one of the most brutal eras of slavery of any human existence, and we're still here.
keeping slavery in our minds and keeping it relevant is one of the most important things that we can do to remember that the same people that built up this nation tore it down, and tore it down by enslaving people that they forced to come here, work land that they then reap the benefits from, toss them out when it was time for them to be freed, and then neglected, beat, and berated them for the next 60 years. I think that when remembering history, slavery is one of the most important things to remember, because it happened here, and we're here, and something that happened can ultimately happen again unless we change our actions and we keep progressing and not regressing.
We are all a part of the same human existence. So when we study slavery, we're really studying all of our history. When we study the Holocaust, we're studying all of our history. When we study any type of human existence and experiences, we are studying the history of us all. So we are interwoven, whether we like it or not. There's no such thing as separating any groups. We are all a part of this human experience.